guys, Brian Stevens here with the National Real Estate Post. I have Eric Bowlby, who is the CEO of AmeriFirst Mortgage out in Gilbert, Arizona. So we all know that rates are going kind of crazy right now. Everybody sees that and everybody's freaking out about it. I've always said in the world of parity, all you have to do is be better than the people around you. But Eric Bowlby has a really interesting take on why this market might have some advantages over the market that we just vacated. That being a market where property values are going up in a very low rate environment. Now with higher interest rates, we're seeing property values drop. Everyone's freaking out about the rates, but nobody's looking at what's going on with the prices of these homes. So Eric decided to put his mind to this and kind of figure out what the real truth is to it and how to help loan officers and real estate agents convey to their clients why buying in the market that we're going into is not only not a bad thing, it's probably better than the market that we just vacated. Well, wait a minute, Brian. So you're telling me that it's better to have a 6.5% interest rate than a 3.5% interest rate? Well, I'm saying no, but Eric would tell you yes. And right now we're going to show you why. And I'll tell you what, the math makes sense on this. And this is going to help you for not only the next 6 months, but the next maybe 18 months as rates continue to rise. So Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I love these crazy markets we're in.
Yeah, you know what? And this is what I really like about our conversations. And I've said this before is I've had just a couple of people in my life who like just really kind of challenge me where it's like, wow, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I think of it? But here's what you're really good at doing, Eric, is seeing things that nobody else in the market sees. I guarantee you that every loan officer who's watching this right now has never heard this scenario. Never once heard this scenario. These are going to be the talking points, how you conduct yourself going forward for the next, 6 to 18 months. So let's jump right in right now. So we're leaving a low rate environment where property values were escalating. What does that look like? What's the scenario?
Yeah, so the first thing you have to recognize is the market we're going to go into is no longer a market of paying up.
Okay.
Right. I use everything I equate to the Arizona market because that's where I live. I'm pretty sure everybody that's watching this can equate somewhat similar or either more or maybe a little bit less. But in Arizona, our sweet spot is that $500,000 purchase price. Yeah. That is the hottest part of the market. So if you were trying to buy over the last couple of years a $500,000 home, you weren't getting it for $500,000.
No,
you were paying between $550,000 to $600,000. It was between $50,000 and $100,000 over book value.
Okay.
And that's what continued to make everything close. What was $500,000 this year? 2 years ago was $400,000, and people were paying up, right? So right now it's been $500,000. You pay $550,000 to $600,000 to get that. So when you look at it, you say, if I bought a house that's worth $500,000, that's now worth $550,000. And just to do the basic math to get down to what the PI payment is on that. You say, okay, let's do our stereotypical 20% down, A paper, great FICO score borrow.
Okay.
Right. So I said, buying a house for $550,000 that's worth $500,000. Your down payment at 20% down is going to be $160,000. So you end up with a mortgage amount of $390,000.
So just real quickly, what we're doing is we're paying the $50,000 over. Yep. Plus our 20% down because we want to get to that 20% down with no MI. So this is a scenario that people were running across in the market that we're just leaving. So the 160 down is the $100,000 down plus the 20%. Okay, I got you.
Yep. So at 550 is 50,000 over. At 600, you'd be 100,000 over. And so 20% plus the 100,000 over puts you at a down payment of 220. So now you're $60,000 more in down payment by that $600,000 house. But let's assume the same rate, 3.5%. So you got one mortgage that when you paid over by 50,000, you got a 390,000. You have the one where you overpaid by 100,000, you're at 380.
Gotcha.
Your two PI payments. So at the 550 purchase price, your PI payment's going to be $1,751.27.
Right.
Your 100,000 over purchase price is going to be a payment of $1,706.37 at a 3.5%.
The market we just left.
Yeah, if we were still in that 3.5% market, right, you would still be paying $50,000 to $100,000 over market if you wanted to get a house.
That's true.
It wasn't changing.
Right.
Now that the market has changed, it's starting to transition back into more of a buyer's market. We have far more inventory. Take Arizona, we have double the inventory that we had in January.
Okay.
So we're already starting to see price reductions on houses, and we'll get into that second. But let's first just start with apples to apples. And now let's say that house that's worth $500,000, let's say you're just buying it for $500,000.
And the reason you're buying it for 500 is because rates are going up and the market is softening, something that's happening right before our eyes. Got it.
People aren't paying $50,000 to $100,000 over. So now if you go into it and you say, I'm going to still put my 20% down on 500,000, that's $100,000, but I'm not going to take the 50,000 I was going to pay over, and I'm just going to put it as an additional down payment, which is equity.
Yep.
When you bought 50,000 over, you threw $50,000 away, hoping and expecting that house was going to be worth 550 somewhere down the road.
Yep.
But you threw it away, right? You paid over market value because you were tired of waiting. You need a house for your wife and kids, whatever the case is. So now you're at a $350,000 loan amount, which is $40,000 lower than what you were when you were paying $50,000 over. But now you got a 6.5% rate. So your PI payment on that is $2,212.24.
Right.
So you're paying $460.97 more per month to have that house. However, you spent $50,000 the other way. So to get to your break even, you got to take the $50,000 you were throwing away and equate it to almost as if you were paying points. Would you pay $50,000 in points to go from 6.5 to 3.5? That's the way you have to look at it.
Right.
And the answer is you just do the math. What's the break even? Well, the break even on that is 108.47 months, which is 9 years. Would you ever think as a loan officer that you would sell on your customer, whatever the points are, that your break even mark is 9 years?
No.
The answer is no, because the average person keeps their mortgage for 4 to 5 years. So no. Then it gets even worse when you go to the 600,000, because now you're going to do your 20% down, which is 100,000, less your $100,000 that you're willing to pay over. So now you have a loan amount of 300,000 instead of 380. So you're $80,000 cheaper, rates at 6.5%. That principal and interest payment is $1,896.20. When you take that against the $1,706.37, your savings, or not your savings, you're paying $189.83 more per month to be in that house. That's it. So less than $200. But you spent, on the old way, you would have spent $100,000, thrown away $100,000. Again, equate it to points. If you equate that to points and say, would you spend $100,000 to save 190-ish? The answer is break-even time is 526.79 months or 43.9 years. The mortgage is for 30. So there's no way you're making your money back in any way, shape, or form. The math suggests that it is way, way, way better off to have a little bit higher rate, but not pay over market values.
It's really worth pointing out here. I just want to convey this point. When you're paying $50,000 over, Eric said this, I'm just doubling down on it. When you're paying $50,000 over, you're just taking that $50,000 and shoving it in the pocket of that seller. It does you no good whatsoever. You're assuming, you're betting that the market is going to continue to appreciate to cover that. So it doesn't do you any good. You're literally, you might as well be paying it in points on a higher rate, is I think what Eric's suggesting. Now, if you're buying that house for $500,000, but you're still taking that money that you otherwise were just giving to the seller, but you're putting that down on your house, even at a higher interest rate, you have such a significantly lower loan amount, even with a higher payment, which you're not going to have for longer than 5 or 7 years. But because you're actually making that $50,000 addition work for you by lowering your loan amount, it's going to make your whole financial situation a hell of a lot more healthier. And when you consider that property values are going $100,000 over asking price that you're just giving to the seller, you're making that $100,000 work for you by putting it against the principal of a lower sales price. It's going to work. It's going to work out even better for you. So both of these scenarios, to me right now, would suggest that a high rate environment with a softening market where sellers are willing to concede more on price and maybe, conditions of the offer that you're putting in, is going to put buyers in a better position in spite of the rate. Correct?
Absolutely. And then if you take into account and say, let's say the market does soften and drops by 5% or 10%. I don't think it's going to soften much more than that, if even. And the reason I said is I still believe we have a housing shortage across the United States. People need a place to live. So I don't want to be Chicken Little saying that we're going to see the market crash and because rates have gone up and property values are going to drop 30, 40%. I don't see that in any way, shape, or form. And it's because of this math. And if you went and said, well, what's the difference if the property values dropped 5%? Your payment is going to now be a couple $100 more. If it's going to drop 10%, you're almost at a break even.
Yeah.
The difference is you now have $50,000 to $100,000 of additional equity. You have an asset. You're not waiting and hoping and speculating that the house is going to continue to rise. So I would never tell a customer to buy their rate down for $50,000 to $100,000 to save 3% interest. Never. And that's the way you have to look at it and say, as long as you're not paying over market value, this rate environment is actually way better. And you have a greater chance that you're going to get into a house today.
Yeah, and you know, Eric, as we were talking about earlier, I was looking at some Freddie Mac analytics from a couple of days ago, and their average loan amount is down 8% from a few months ago. And that would suggest that property values have dropped 8%. The only reason why Freddie Mac would have a lower average loan amount across the country is with lower offers, lower sales prices. That's it. That's the only thing that rationalizes that. So you say, we don't know if we're going to go 10%. Well, Freddie Mac would suggest that we've already gone 8%. And with what's happened in the market over the past couple of days and people's reaction to it, I would imagine that lagging indicator in a couple of months would suggest we're going to go down even further. So I don't know, man. I think that 10% might be just right in front of us. And I'm seeing in my extremely hot market in Northern California here in between Sacramento and the Silicon Valley, I've already seen multiple properties that have had multiple price reductions. So this is what you're spelling out here is not conjecture. What you're spelling out here is actually happening in markets across the country.
And we'll continue to do so, right? The Fed's raised another 3/4 today, and they're talking about another half down the like. Rates are most likely going to continue to go up until they recognize that they've destroyed the economy, and then they're going to do whatever they have to do to fix it. I'm sure the midterm elections is going to be a big thing of going, holy crap, we just pissed the world off, and now none of us have jobs anymore. But aside from those things happening, I don't see rates dropping, at least, let's say until first quarter next year, maybe end of first quarter. But that's not a bad thing. That just means all these people who are going to get into properties now at the right purchase price, they're going to be our refi clients 6 months from now. Yeah. And they're going to be thanking us.
Yep.
If we are absolutely crazy, if we're not ringing the bell and saying this has been the best time to buy a house in the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Even though rates are 3% higher, doesn't matter. If they go 4% higher, I promise you, it doesn't matter, because that pain over market value was killing our industry. It was actually other than everybody in a panic that they just wanted to have a house and they saw the houses going up and they wanted to get their piece of equity. That was actually the worst time to buy.
Yeah, and you know, and adding support to what you're talking about is the cost of softwood framing wood that we import from Canada has just fallen off a cliff because there's so little construction going on right now. The cost to actually build a house has gone down significantly. And if you watch my show with any regularity, guys, we were talking about the Minneapolis Fed's working paper about how they were very critical of HUD and the National Association of Home Builders, new home builders in this country, saying that we need to have an intervention of sorts because they're treating building houses like a monopoly. So there's a lot of pressure on new home builders to start building more. So if you can build more houses and build them less expensively, that just adds to what Eric's saying here. Property values are going to go down. And if you were already conditioned to spend $50,000 over, $100,000 over, if you were conditioned to do that because you wanted that 2% interest rate, well, just take that money that you were conditioned to spend and spend it in this market, and your money's going to go a hell of a lot farther for you in so many ways. And as the market continues to soften, it doesn't really even matter the direction interest rates are going, because that ultimately would probably end up benefiting people because it's going to put more pressure on property values to go down even further.
One other thing you have to consider when you're consulting your customers as well as on these is that higher interest rate comes with it a higher tax deduction.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So if you look into it again, I just ran the numbers in Arizona, and that tax deduction is going to save you around $150 to $200 a month in taxes. So if you went and added that tax savings back into those numbers we just talked about, it's astronomical. You would never ever tell your customer that they should be paying $50,000 to $100,000 to save 3% interest. Your break evens at this, they're never going to happen.
It almost makes it a push with the $500,000 point.
Yeah, really close.
With an $80,000 lower loan amount. Eric, this is great. Hey, by the way, guys, if you want to reach out and have a conversation with Eric and his team, I highly encourage you to do that. All of Eric's contact information is down below here. Also, the spreadsheet that we're staring at as we're having this conversation, don't worry about it. We've added that down below as well. So take this information, guys. Have a conversation with your real estate agents. Have a conversation with your clients. My God, do a video. It's complicated. This is a complicated one to really kind of swallow, but make sure that you use this information in your talking points. It will be the difference between you getting deals or not getting deals. And I'll tell you, The loan officer who is better, well-versed in having these type of conversations in the market that we're at is going to be the one who wins the deal. Because seriously, if you're all selling the same higher rate, you're all selling the same products, you're all selling the same turn times, all within an eighth of each other, broker and banker alike right now, what's going to be the difference is you. This is where sales really come in. Have your talking points down. And this is something nobody else is talking about. So make sure you're well-versed with this and reach out to Eric's team. I know that they're willing to have a conversation with you about this and so much more. So with that said, Eric, thanks so much for bringing this to my attention. When I saw it, my jaw hit the ground. And so I hope we're going to have a lot more aha moments going forward with this.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.